Alright, so in this video we're going to be talking about consciousness and what I mean by consciousness, and this is going to be the second video in this series about defining our reality, because we really can't define our reality or talk about our reality without acknowledging consciousness itself, because it's our human consciousness that helps us actually form these realities, and we can't really experience anything without consciousness. And so it becomes a very important thing to talk about because it finds itself as the prima materia, or the fundamental underpinnings of our reality. It defines things that cannot be defined without it, and without it our reality cannot be created. We don't have a human experience without consciousness. And so, what do I mean by consciousness? Well, consciousness very simply is defined as experience. Consciousness is experience. It's any and all experience that you have while you're awake. And now that we have a term that we're more comfortable with, that we're more familiar with, let's define the term experience. Experience is the apprehension of a thought, an emotion, or an object through the senses or mind. And so, this is the first indicator of something interesting, because what we have is thought, emotion, or an object. Object is in the outside world. We're going to call that action. So really, there's three aspects to consciousness that we have to be aware of. That's thought, emotion, and action. And we simply separate these three things, not because there are three different types of consciousness. They're all just consciousness. They're all just experiences that we have. But all three of them are unique in their own way. They have their own tendencies that we're going to talk about a whole heck of a lot on this channel. So experience is active participation that leads to the expansion or growth of whatever you're participating in. And so, as you experience new things, your consciousness expands. And that's what expanding consciousness means. When you hear those New Agey people and they're talking about expanding your consciousness, all that they're saying is for you to have more experiences in your life, experience more things, and your consciousness will naturally grow, because consciousness and experience are synonyms. And so when you're trying to get a new job and it says that you need 2 to 4 years of experience in X, Y, and Z, what they're saying is that you're not consciously aware of certain things that we want you to be aware of if you don't have 2 to 4 years of experience in whatever we need you to have experience in. And we can also, well, let's just take a step back and just form a simple example. An example that everyone always talks about, and that is the piece of chocolate. So you see a piece of chocolate, you see the object, so that's an experience, and then you take the piece of chocolate and you put it on your tongue, and you experience the sensation, the taste, the texture, the smell, and the sound of the chocolate melting in your mouth. You're consciously experiencing the chocolate. That's all that I'm saying here. Consciousness is a term that has been obfuscated by very much more intelligent people than myself, and I'm trying to bring it back down to earth. Consciousness is just experiencing things. It's just experiencing things. And so when you put chocolate in your mouth, it's just you consciously experiencing chocolate. So conscious ability is the ability to recognize meaningful patterns with respect to your environment's data structures. Meaningful patterns are what we value, and the universe's data structures are the truth, or that which is in existence. And so, consciousness is the state or quality of sentient beings to find meaning from the arrangement of information both within oneself and within the realm in which the self exists. So consciousness goes deeper than just experiencing or explaining chocolate, because, quoting Sam Harris, consciousness is the basis for human values and morality. It's this meaning and morality that Sam talks about, with consciousness being the basis of, that actually defines what is actually valuable, what is actually important, because as you'll learn, we've talked about meaning quite a bit. We've talked about values, and we're going to talk about both of those terms a whole lot more, but we haven't yet talked about morality. Morality is the objective knowledge of the difference between right action and wrong action, and we're going to talk about that a whole lot also, because the more right actions that we do in our lives, the happier and more successful we'll be, and the more wrong actions that we can avoid doing, will help us also be more successful. And then there's this constant give and take, because sometimes you have to commit wrong actions, sometimes you have to make mistakes, sometimes you have to make errors and fail in order to find out what the right thing to do is. So we cannot be afraid of committing wrong actions. We just have to be aware of them and be aware of the ones that we really shouldn't commit, and be aware of the ones that will help us learn and grow as we expand our consciousness, as we continue to have experiences in our lives. And so, consciousness is the foundational underpinnings of really all human reality. And it seems like it's something that's extremely important. It seems like something that we should have a course or a class on every single year, because it is something that is, it's defining us at all times. And we can't separate the human from the consciousness. We really can't. It's important to note here that we don't definitively know why or how we have conscious experience, and it's not under my purview to contemplate those things, because contemplation of those things, unless you want to be one of those guys, it's not important. It's just important to be aware of it and to understand it as best we possibly can. And so, really, one of the deeper things that we do know about this topic is that the brain definitely plays a role in the process of conscious experience. But to me, it's becoming more and more clear that consciousness is not emergent from the brain, but that consciousness is just a fundamental property of the universe, perhaps even the fundamental property of the universe. And all that means is that, really, for lack of a better articulation and ability to talk about this stuff, I believe that humans developed our own unique human way of interacting with this prima materia, most probably simply just for naturally selective purposes in regard to being able to exist in a reality that is that has this consciousness. And so this is likely because we consciously experience deeper meaning towards things that have to do with survival and replication. And so all that means is that things that we're more consciously aware of, they raise in value. So you hear like a loud noise, the screech or the roar of a lion, of a predator. That gets our attention because it's easier for us to be consciously aware of loud noises. Likewise, we can find fruits and vegetables more easily because fruits and vegetables tend to be brightly colored compared to their inedible counterparts, the parts of the tree that are not edible. And also, the feeling of an orgasm for replication is a wonderful experience that is awesome, and it's an experience that really drives human behavior to an extent that we honestly pretend like it's not something that drives us insanely, but it really does. And that's something to be aware of, and it's an incredible sensation, and we could not have it without consciousness. We would not be able to feel it without consciousness, and so that's really important as well. And as you'll learn, the expansive force for consciousness makes us open to receiving the truth, because consciousness itself is our ability to receive the truth. And this is where I have to ask you to start separating your ideas of what experience is. Because a lot of people look at experience and they say, experience is something that you do outside in the world. Well, not necessarily. There is gaining experience through gaining knowledge, which is something that occurs within the mind. It is a conscious experience. You have to consciously learn things. You cannot unconsciously learn things. As much as we like to pretend that we can, we can't really. And so, our awareness of a topic is what I'm talking about here. Our awareness of a topic. So, you have a topic, let's say, like English. And you look at that topic, and you're aware of some things in that topic, but you're not aware of all things. And you're aware that there are things outside of your awareness of that topic, and you're aware of stuff that you are aware of about that topic. That's how I would like you to consider thinking about consciousness and conscious experience as well. Because none of that stuff is materially physical. And so it's hard for our material minds to comprehend it. And it's going to take time to understand that that's where our focus has to be, inside of the mind. And so the more conscious we are, the more experiences that we have, the better our ability to perceive the truth. The better our ability to perceive the truth, the easier it becomes for us to receive the truth. The more you know about a thing, the easier it is to learn more things about that thing. I'm never going to say anything that's not blatantly obvious, because this stuff is extraordinarily simple, and that's why I feel comfortable enough to share my knowledge on it. And so, in other words, our awareness of a topic must grow in size in order for us to come to know what is unknown to us. And this is what I mean by random data structures, information and knowledge. Information and knowledge. Not really talking about a tree anymore. We're not talking about physical things anymore. We're talking about our ability to gain more knowledge on things that allow us to take better action in the world. And ultimately, a wider net catches more fish. More perception, more awareness, more consciousness means more reception of the truth. The more we know about a topic, the more our awareness of the topic grows, the more consciously aware of that topic we become. Ultimately, this is all about experiences, having more experiences, being able to feel emotions deeper, feel more meaning, growing your knowledge base, and living life to the fullest, because all of these actions are going to expand our consciousness, and the more our consciousness expands, the greater our chances for success and happiness in our lives. I will be saying that a lot throughout this channel because that's all that matters to me, your success, your happiness, which are interrelated. And we're going to talk about that in later videos. So tapping into this concept of consciousness at a far deeper level, this is as far as we're going to go in this video. This is our evolutionary advantage as humans because we've tapped into consciousness at a far deeper level than any other being that we've ever experienced. And humans succeed. The humans that succeed the most are those that dive deeper into consciousness, that dive deeper into their thoughts and feelings, and who have the courage, the intestinal fortitude to go into that area, which is insane enough, and then be crazy enough and courageous enough to take that stuff out and share it with everyone else. If you can do that at an effective and articulate way, well, you're well on your way to being one of the most successful people in our society, because we value people who can do that, who can brave that journey. And it is a journey. It's the hero's journey, and we'll talk about that as well. So those who feel their emotions with burning intensity, those who think of new ways to improve society, all of that stuff is well and good. And we're going to talk about both of those aspects of consciousness. But ultimately, it's all mental masturbation until you complete the triangle. You got to take action in the real world. You go in there, anyone can go in there. Coming back, that's the big deal. That's the game changer. That's the thing that we got to talk about the most, because it's all about taking massive action in the real world, because that's the only reason why we have thoughts and emotions, to get us to take action, to get us to do things, to create new things. That's all there is for us to do. We're happiest when we're doing things, when we're creating things. And our emotions get us to do that, and our thoughts give us something that is an idea for us to create and do in the real world. And that's where this ultimately leads. Taking action in the real world, not for any other reason than for the fact that we love doing things. We love doing things because doing things is life itself. And paying attention to a thing is giving that thing the love it needs to grow and exist. Our thoughts, our emotions, our actions are all that we experience. And that's what consciousness is. And having more of these things, thoughts, emotions, and actions at a deeper level, experiencing them at a deeper level, will make you more conscious and will give you an advantage over all others who refuse to think, who refuse to feel, and those who commit the worst sin of all, those who refuse to take action in the real world. Because not taking action is the refusal of life itself, because doing is life. And we'll continue to talk about these three aspects of consciousness: thoughts, emotions, and actions, why they're there, how to kind of understand what they're doing, how to coordinate them in such a way so our thoughts and our emotions and our actions are acting in accordance with one another, so that we can have internal sovereignty in later videos. The point here that I want you to understand is that there's much more to learn about consciousness, but we have to start with the basics, and the basics are this: any experience that you have, any experience that you're aware of, that's consciousness. That's you being consciously aware of something. And that your ability, your conscious ability, is your ability to perceive the truth. And our ability to perceive the truth and to receive the truth can expand, and it does expand as you have more conscious experience, as you dive deeper into these aspects of consciousness. And we'll be talking about it a whole lot in later videos. But from here, we're going to move on, probably, I think, to first principles in natural law. Perhaps I'll make a video briefly about defining what truth is, or what I mean by the truth, because that's a term that is quite interesting to talk about. So, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day, everyone.